Good afternoon, and welcome to Innovate at the speed your customers demand and you can afford. I'm Lexi Grindstaff, Director of Business Development at Bank Director, and we thank you for joining us today. This webinar is brought to you by both Bank Director and Agent IQ. Agent IQ is a personal digital customer engagement platform that helps community banks create better and more loyal relationships with their customers. Before we get started with today's webinar, let me share just a few housekeeping items with you. You have joined this event in listen-only mode, so you are automatically muted. For a better viewing experience today, we recommend that you click on the slide bar at the bottom of your screen to put the presenters into full screen mode. We do encourage you to ask questions, so throughout the presentation, please note those questions using the Q&A button found on the right-hand side of your screen. And there is no need to take detailed notes, as this recording will be shared with all attendees within 24 hours via email and will also be available on bankdirector.com. And if you have any technical issues today, please note those using the moderator chat feature on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will do our best to take care of it. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers today. First with us is Soren Vested, the Chief Revenue Officer at Agent IQ. Soren's industry tenure has spanned 6 countries across 4 continents and has primarily been focused on fintech services, biotechnology, healthcare, and international strategic collaboration. Welcome, Soren.
Thank you, Lexi. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, yes. And also with us today is Misty Mosteler, the Executive Vice President, Director of Consumer Banking and Enterprise Innovation at Extraco Banks. Extraco Banks is a $2 billion bank out of Waco, Texas, with 15 branches that was founded in 1902. At Extraco, Misty oversees the retail branch network, payment strategy and innovation, retail payment vendors, and the bank's alternative delivery channels. She also oversees selected strategic projects, which are centered on corporate-wide innovation. Welcome, Misty.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so I say we just go ahead and dive right in. It's no secret that customer behavior and demands have been changing, and community banks have definitely needed to adapt to keep up and to continue to capitalize on their biggest assets, employees and customer relationships. Also, looking at the COVID pandemic and the challenges that has brought about, I think some banks have seen dramatic increases in call center volumes, challenges in meeting staffing needs, and also sometimes a lack of interaction with their consumers. Misty, I'm curious, are you seeing these problems too? And if so, which are impacting you the most at Extraco?
Definitely, we're not immune to any of those. I think any bank, financial institution of any size has experienced that, and the pandemic really accelerated consumer demand for us with the use of digital tools. So, obviously, as a smaller community bank, branch transformation has been something that's, always something that's being worked on. But digital transformation is something that we've been actively trying to get better at and do more. And I think, again, with the pandemic, it kind of sped up our desire and our efforts and initiatives. And you're absolutely right, particularly with resource constraints, particularly human resource constraints. We really were looking for solutions that could kind of help transcend between our branch transformation strategies and our digital transformation strategies without creating that customer perception, especially in the thick of the pandemic, that we were closed or we couldn't get to them fast enough, or that we couldn't keep up with consumer demand. And I think that was something that, it all kind of converged onto us, along with just now you're continuing to see the different margin pressures that we're under, as well as fintech competition to really grab our customers' attention. So it's just all this big kind of ball of mess that we were trying to work through.
Yes, and Soren, from the service provider perspective, Misty kind of gave a little, background on the bank's perspective. You speak with a lot of banks. What are some of the innovations that their customers are demanding and that you see them pushing to keep up with?
It's a great question, and I'll echo some of what Misty said. What we hear in general is that community banks have succeeded because they get to know their customers, they're relevant, they are contextual. And I spent 10 years in mobile banking payments. I'm part of the problem now. I'm trying to be part of the solution. Community banks need to reinvigorate their personal relationships. If we're fighting very large organizations with very large budget, we need to fight them on what we're good at, and that's that personal relationship. So what we generally are seeing from community banks is we're very keen on finding out how do we allow our customers to engage with us just like they do in branches, but anytime and anywhere. How do we make it personal? How do we make it persistent? How do we make it proactive? And from a bank's perspective, many of the banks we talk to are always hesitant about using the term selling, but selling has a slightly dirty connotation. We don't want to be selling to people. And I think there's a difference between selling and solving problems. When I get my weekly mail out, Soren, do you want a credit card? That's selling. When Misty shows up to me and says, hey, Soren, I think you could benefit from refinancing your house. That's not selling, that's helping me. And I think that's what we've heard a lot of community banks saying. We need to re-embrace the relationship, and we need to figure out how do we solve problems, deepening relationship in that process.
I think that's a really important differentiator. And Misty, what was the challenge that Extraco has been looking to solve? If you can boil that down.
Yeah, we made the strategic decision, like most banks, to really enhance and continue to invest in our digital transformation strategies. We had recently actually switched our digital banking provider in 2021, and we really wanted, that's kind of the foundation, really making sure you have the right vendor partner. But to Soren's points about really how do you blend the experience you get in a lobby for a community bank and credit union, most it's that connection with that human, with that person. How do you blend that in a digital world, which at a minimum, the perception for most community banks is that you really can't go there. Well, we were trying to figure out how can we personalize it, so obviously you can't replicate it all the way, but we wanted something that would help us personalize that experience and get us close to the operational excellence. Like I said, the amount of human resource constraints that we're under, always looking for a way to become more efficient, especially in an omni-channel call center environment, which is what we're in. And I feel like, we have such a deep commitment to our lobby channel. We're not like the mega banks that kind of can determine, we're going to close 100 branches here and maybe open up 50 there. That's just not our level. We have a small amount of branches, and we're committed to that, and we really are a true community bank. I think of us as like a super community bank. We're heavy commercial real estate, but we have such a strong consumer banking presence. And to echo Soren's comments again, we really were trying to engage our customers outside the branch in those touch points in a trusted advisory context where it wasn't going to come across that, boom, this is an email campaign, and they know it's me and they know I use my debit card, but that it was really personalized with a human element to it. So I think that was a problem that we were trying to solve, and that's where obviously entering Agent IQ that turned our problem into an opportunity. One thing I will also add, there was a lot of external environmental type of pressure that created this for us. It's not just even pre-pandemic, these were concepts that we were talking about and thinking about because you have this dichotomy, right? I mean, fortunately, I wear a lot of hats at the bank, so I kind of get to see it. But most banks our size don't even have me, a better version of me. But, branch transformations being led here and digital transformations being led there, and then payment strategies are being led elsewhere. So we could kind of be able to see kind of like, gosh, we need digital tools that are going to help us. But the irony of it being like, well, we, from an efficiency standpoint, we really would like to minimize some of those in-person interactions eventually, right? That's why we invested in a new digital banking provider and picking the right partner to help you do that is just fundamentally critical, because you have to retain that personal engagement functionality in order to actually execute on this. And so, I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface about AI and those capabilities, but that was really important with us, and we're continuing to see great progress with that with Agent IQ.
So what, in that process, what solutions were you looking for to help with that challenge, and how did the relationship with Agent IQ come about?
We'd made so much progress on branch transformation. We were building our foundation on the digital transformation, but we needed a provider that really understood that our digital banking platform was a foundational aspect of it, but that they could actually help us leverage like our other lines of business. One thing that's unique, I feel like, about Extraco is we do have full service wealth management, full service insurance, full service mortgage. And so how to create this environment, like, we call our personal bankers relationship bankers. They just don't have that skill set. You need licenses and expertise outside of that. So how do you connect them quicker and better, more effectively with the subject matter experts? Because you're training them to try to have better conversations, but you can't train them for everything. And so how do you build this journey for the employee and the customer that's quick and efficient and timely and relevant? All with the foundation of either inside our app or coming from our website. And that would be at the customer's choosing. But I think that was something that was really important for us as we were trying to navigate to get the picture right in our own head. What does this look like? That was one. I'm not sure if that answers your question fully, but.
Yes, it definitely does. And so can you walk us through the process of implementation, what you implemented, how long that process took?
Gosh, with Agent IQ, that was, because we keep in mind, I answer kind of tentatively because we just went through like a digital platform conversion, which is fun, right? But with Agent IQ, it's one of the smoothest experiences we've ever had with any vendor. And I've been here for 18 years and I manage a lot of vendor relationships for the bank. And it was by far maybe one of the top one or two, if not the one. So the implementation in a nutshell was very easy. One thing from, again, Agent IQ mirrored what they told us that they wanted to do for our customers, that human interaction. So much of the platform is built on AI and machine learning, but they held our hand. And we had some blips in our digital banking provider conversion that weren't crises. They felt like crises at the time, but we were in a little bit of a shell shock mode. And they came in. There was so much communication, so much planning that they had done to kind of get us to have a smooth implementation. We launched in the holiday season. Ideally, I really wish we would have launched when we changed providers. That was in the May, so early in 2021. It would have been a godsend to have Agent IQ during that time, but we didn't. Our executive committee, the timing didn't work out. But when we launched them, I think we went live, Thor, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think November 1st or 16th on the website chat first. And then we were live at the beginning of January in short order inside our app because of their strong connections with our digital platform provider and working with our website technology vendor. So I can't say this enough. It was so easy on us that it's kind of like I don't really remember. It was just that easy. It was like pressing the easy button.
Well, that's great. And you just touched on this, but we had a question come in on, with switching to the new digital banking provider, did you have to then integrate that software with Agent IQ, and how did that go? And it sounds like.
And it was very smooth because of they had that relationship. So it wasn't like, they knew our digital banking platform provider knew Agent IQ. They had a strong connection with them. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but it was as easy as like opening up a case and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. And Agent IQ really took the initiative to handle the rest for us. There was some go between a few little pieces, but we went live. It was very clear. The implementation plan and path was made clear to us actually in the sales cycle. And I appreciate that from a vendor management standpoint, because a bank our size, one thing that we've personally dealt with many times is you go through the sales cycle and then you get blindsided in the implementation cycle. We had no blindsides. So that was really a great experience, and it honestly built trust for us. And so we started to launch, we kind of piecemealed it with Agent IQ because we were a bit tired from a conversion. But we started with website chat, then we went inside our online banking, then we went into text chat, and we're about to launch with video chat. But it's each time it's been something that they're working at our pace, so they're not dragging us, and I hope they're not pushing us. But it's at our pace that we're able to work at. And along the way, parallel to that, they're just constantly absorbing our feedback to make our experience, our chat, and that virtual omni-channel experience better and more human for our customers.
And, I think the way you describe it too is really important. I think maybe in the past, innovation has been looked at more as a hobby, something nice to do. And at this point, it's really no longer optional. And how you said, you're starting with one piece and adding on, but you're starting.
Yeah.
And that's key. Soren, please.
I can jump in. So Misty, you're being very complimentary, and I very much appreciate that. But I also say one of the things that was very helpful for us at Agent IQ was, as you can hear, Misty have put a lot of thought into this. So for us, it was a matter of coming into Misty, meet Misty and the Extraco Bank team, and listen. Ultimately, most of us fintech providers, we provide a tool. And if the tool is well built, it can be configured. It's about listening to what is it Misty was looking for. And there are some very, very technical needs. The call center was being hit hard. Let's fix it. Let's find out how do we, and Misty had great data on what do our customers ask about, what do they care about, which enabled us to go in and put in self-service options that are addressing close to 50% of all web chats without a human getting involved. But then there was also a very strategic element of, right, we have a tactical need and a very, very well-defined strategic direction. So I think having Misty be able to convey to us what is sometimes comes and say, well, this is where we like to go. You tell us what the options are, what are the solutions. I think that's just very, very powerful as a partnership.
Absolutely, you're right. I'm glad you touched on that, Soren, because it was being able to tell you, because you can always kind of come up with the vision, right, and what you're aspiring to, but meeting us where we were at. And our call center it's an omni-channel environment in our call center, but it's a very small call center. I know some banks our size don't have a call center, but we do. But when you compare us to other sizes, it's very small. We have a group of maybe 14 or 15. We have virtual tellers. We have other channels. And so to not have the luxury, I guess, of the, or not to have the ability to add resources, that was already a hurdle that we were going to have to face. And, in essence, we technically were adding a channel. So you can imagine how my team felt of wait, we're going to do what? But it is, Soren's right. We have seen so much efficiency and taking those inbound calls and redirecting that traffic in a more efficient manner. It has just been wonderful. It has made our call center team a lot more engaged from a human resource employee experience standpoint. And that is because when Agent IQ came in, they were asking us questions that one young lady, she's not on the call, but Krista, she works with me directly. And, they were asking us questions I wonder why that's relevant. Asking us what was the employee experience? What are they going through? What types of calls? Not just tell us your call volume so I can plug it into this ROI model and send it back to you. It was much more in depth, a lot of planning sessions to kind of help us craft out the vision so that we could actually get to the vision too. So.
I think the other thing, and again, compliment to Misty and her team. I think we are so used to, and Misty, I'm going to steal your expression from the other day. So I apologize for that in advance. But we're so used to anytime we innovate, it's a very large, heavy project. And Misty, you coined the term, you can't turn an elephant in a bathtub, which I think is a great term. But if we think about this, if we think about the scale and scope of what we did with Extraco banks, it's large. And as Misty said, it's web chat with AI, it is mobile messaging within mobile online banking, it is co-browsing, it's video chat, it's SMS, it's real-time language translation. It's a lot of different things. And I think what Misty's team were very, very open about was saying, why don't we make this a multi-step journey? Let's not create one large project, but also let's be smart and test and learn. Because as we know, as a collective team, we can pontificate with the best of them. We can talk about, well, what if, and that could also happen that, but instead, okay, we think this is 80, 90% correct today. Let's get, for example, the self-service options live, but let's use the built-in analytics in the platform to understand in 2, 4, 6 days, what are we really seeing? Because what Misty and I are thinking, and Anna, our PhD in linguistics, and Laura and our team is thinking, may not be what the customer perceives. So let's get it out. Let's understand what are people doing. And then classic Deming cycle: test, learn, refine, and keep going that way. And I think that has been, it's a mindset. And I think coming in with a mindset like that we are, it's never going to be perfect on day one, but it's going to be much better than it was before. And it's only going to get better from there. I think that's very important.
Yes, my former boss told me that quote, you can't turn an elephant around in a bathtub. So I can't take credit, but I do use it. And it's true. And you're right, Soren, because, again, coming off of like converting our entire digital banking platform from a project management experience, that is overwhelming. And I lead a lot of projects at the bank. And so for them being willing to kind of say, let's let you baby step into this, let's go from here to there, I think that's helped us with that design thinking concept too, where you say test and learn, refine. I am such a friend of, I used to say this, now this I did say, Soren, I am a friend of iteration. I used to say, y'all should make my title director of iteration, not director of innovation, because, it's about those incremental improvements. And then when you're looking at that from a trend analysis standpoint, that's really when you see your lift, so you don't have to throw everything out at once and then, okay, everyone's going to use everything, because that's really not what we've historically seen. And so to be able to kind of iterate and build off of the experience made it a much better experience, so to speak.
Yes, and Soren, from Agent IQ's perspective, what was key in this rollout to your team, and how were you looking at this launch? In what ways, what did you need to see to view it as successful?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, Misty and the team came in with a very open mind to this. We appreciated that coming off a mobile migration, I think another large migration later in the year, the team was fatigued. And one of the things we had to think about when we built Agent IQ is we're designed to work with community banks. So showing up and saying, Misty, so who are your top 3 project managers you want to be on this project? It's not reasonable, and it's not how we should be operating. So I think when you design a service, you think about the end customer in mind. We have to think about how we're going to engage. So we have made it kind of our job to say, well, Misty, we'll show up with a project plan that's going to be 30, 40 items on here. We'll highlight 6 or 7 of them, and we'll tell you these are the ones we would like to take care of. And we'll give you an example of how we think about it and what potentially other people have done, so you can get inspired by what other people have done. So I think coming in with that approach, the other thing is, as Misty said, test and learn, right? And you have to figure out, one of the benefits of having an ultra modern platform is that everything we have done with Extraco has been configuration. We don't do upgrade changes. We are a SaaS service, so the platform is always up to date, which means that, for example, when Misty told us we're ready to migrate our SMS channel, it's a config on our side. We will do it outside office hours, but it doesn't have to be, we'll do that every second Tuesday of the month. It's going to be, okay, let's get it done when you're ready for it. And then let's make sure everything works the way we want it to work. I think it's a lot about that. What Misty will also tell you, and that's probably going to come through for anyone who has met me. We have a lot of opinions. Sometimes we have what we call strong opinions, weakly held, but we'll generally show up with an opinion. And we benefit from having people like Ray Davis on our advisory board, but having Misty saying, Soren, that's really, really interesting, but that's not the way the real world works in a bank in Waco. So let me correct you here. And having the freedom and the relationship to be allowed to put forth our opinions, I think has been really important in our implementation here.
Yeah, I think that's when we get into a partnership, right? Some of your vendor partners might not look at it like that, and they've got a model that they can apply, and maybe there's some fallout, but they were great at giving us and giving us resources to even like you go through our sales cycle and due diligence kind of involves like the traditional reference checks, but they were even referencing and helped us connect with other clients as we were going through, like maybe you should look into this is how they did it, now you can do it like this, but this is how they did, and that was very helpful. And even now we still kind of think like we'll go back and reference some of our notes when we're asking internal questions, and that's all because they kind of helped us facilitate this and really made it a bit of a journey for us. And then we have strong opinions too, so and we can get pretty, as small as we are, Soren knows we can get pretty demanding, and they have just always had like kind of a servant type of relationship with us to kind of like, how can we help you better yourselves? How can we help you, do this better, and helping us, like many times Soren and his team would be on the call and I'd be like, what if, and it would be some random, and Soren would be like, gosh, so what I'm hearing you say, Misty, is this? I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And he's like, well, do you really mean this? And I'm like, yeah, that's really what I mean. So it's nice to have that where you don't have to have it just all like laid out. But again, they got our vision. They helped us craft the vision. And then they're helping us actually meet the outcomes that we set in the sales cycle. So it's been a great journey. It is continuing to be a great journey.
I think Misty hit on something very important here, and we know that some of the things that we have that Misty and her team and Extraco banks have enabled through chit chat, select your banker, engage with your banker. What are the KPIs? Is it great to talk to somebody every week? Is it great to talk to them every 3 months? So there's some ambiguity, and I think Misty and her team did a extremely good job of setting forth some KPIs that we felt they're probably correct. We are going to refine them, no doubt about it. But having an idea of what does good look like. The risk is always that we launched it and we like it a lot and we high five ourselves, but what does it ultimately mean for Extraco banks? What are the KPIs? Did we hit our KPIs? Are we delivering on the value that we set out to deliver on together? And if not, how can we fix it, or how can we improve it? How can we exceed the KPIs? I think that has been important.
That is, especially like when you're saying, how do we add to our customer journey and experience without adding resources? Because everyone's trying to figure that out. I mean, and Agent IQ is kind of part of our secret sauce, because we've seen consistently since we launched, so we're into June now, almost over a 30% reduction in our call center volume each month, which is huge because I've got Krista has 2 employees on maternity leave. We've added additional virtual tellers. So we have really less resources than we started, and we're still seeing that shift from like inbound call center volume to using Gabby and Chit Chat, which is what we call our Agent IQ services. And that has been phenomenal. Again, going back to like my team's employee experience of like feeling fatigued. They have personally had to deal with the pandemic. They're coming into work. They're dealing with that personally. Then we're short on resources like everybody, dealing with those different staffing challenges, and then to have a conversion for your digital platform. So we've seen, we're hitting all of our KPIs. And one thing I do like, just to add a little bit more flavor to what Soren was saying, we really were kind of overthinking a lot of our key performance indicators for the project. We're like, we need to track this, and we're going to track this. I think, Soren, the original list probably was like 25. And they were so gracious. They're like, okay, well, if those are all good things that the platform will allow you to track. But I think at some point, Soren kind of had a misty, a moment, a misty moment of like, this, you don't need to track that many. This is really where you need to focus on, because that's what's going to hit your bottom line. That's what's going to hit your financials, right? That's what's going to change and transform your customer experience. So we were able to kind of synthesize that down to probably like 8. But there's probably a 3 or 4 core KPIs that we've really been looking on. And that's really, again, being just the reduction in volume, and having that shift over to the channel. And so much of that, almost half of our engagements are not involving my human bankers, which is just huge. I mean, and we've had really great, like, Soren says sales kind of comes with this negative connotation, but we've had some great sales experiences that's a layer of KPIs that we really aren't like kind of holding ourselves accountable to yet. But we have had some phenomenal referrals, results, outcomes for like loans, booked loans in our mortgage division and in our consumer lending division. So just being able, again, tracking starting from your vision, so like what does that implementation look like to get you to that vision? What do your KPIs need to be to line up to that? And staying on that journey has been it's been a great experience. I feel like I've said that a few times.
But Misty, I think one of the things that's been, sorry, Lexi, but I did want to mention, one of the things that's been fascinating, so Misty said, Misty and her team launched web chat with self-service options, et cetera, but at the same time they launched what Misty refers to as chit chat, which is the personal engagement service. I select my own banker. I get to work with Lexi every time. I can reach out to Lexi anytime I want, but more importantly, and I think this is a key, a performance indicator I've heard from a number of different banks. We need our bankers to reach out to the customers. Not hard selling, but imagine, I mean, you may have experienced, if you work with a good organization like Extraco banks, during COVID, you may have had the experience that, Lexi, I'm going to pick on you, but Lexi reaching out to me as a customer and say, hey, Soren, just checking in, are you okay? Is your family okay? Is there anything that you're concerned about? Because when people are under pressure, when people are stressed, they retract. And I think what Miss and the team done really well is said, well, we need to use this tool to make it easier to reach out to my banker, to my Lexi, easier than Googling. And if we look at the customers, which are, in a very short period of time, we have about 6,500, 7,000 customers have selected their personal banker already at this point. And we look at the conversations, and one of the metrics that we kicked around a lot was how many of those conversations should be started by the customer and how many are by the banker, and how do the bankers start that? And I think we see today that about 55% of conversations are initiated by Extraco's bankers. And this is not, hi Soren, do you want a credit card? Do you want a credit card? It is, Soren, I'm just checking in, anything I can help you with, or I noticed that your direct deposit has moved. Did you change job? Congratulations. Does anything come with that? Are you moving? Do you need a new car? What can I do? And I think that openness that historically was predicated on me coming to the branch is really important.
And that's how we've generated some of those sales and referral success stories that we've had internally.
And Misty, something that you touched on earlier was some of your people on the team were a little hesitant in adding what they thought another channel. So now that you've been in the partnership for a few months now, how are bankers feeling about the service, or how did you get your team on board? Because I know that's a challenge a lot of banks have.
Oh gosh, I wish I would have brought like some actual wording from some of the team. I mean, they love it, and again, they've had to have the experience, firsthand, but the platform is so easy to use. It's easy to give Agent IQ feedback. So that ability to iterate, and that they've seen Agent IQ respond to some of their feedback. I mean, that's just really powerful when you can take an employee that typically is entry level and they're trying to do their best to meet the expectations, and to see their feedback get escalated and actually implemented. is huge, and so they have really enjoyed working in the platform. It's so easy I could navigate in the platform. So that says a lot about how easy it is to do. But our relationship bankers we're actually at the point now where people are beginning the other employees and other lines of business are beginning to ask, like, well, how do I get access into it? Can I be in on it? Whether that's either being on the banker side or on the subject matter expert side. So I would definitely say, short answer, they really are enjoying it and are deeply engaged with the platform.
And I will just say too, for all the banks that we have online, please feel free to submit your questions. I think it's clear to see Misty is willing to share, open book. And so we can definitely utilize her and Soren's experience. But, I think Misty too, we can focus a little bit how you had kind of laid out that journey of having a roadmap, going on solutions. So is there any other advice you want to give to bankers as they are figuring out how to start in their digital transformation journey?
Well, one hurdle that we had that I think most banks, you would run into is getting that executive level buy-in, our executive committee. We're really heavily more of a commercial real estate bank, but we have just this strong, robust consumer banking presence, but we're not like a retail bank, so sometimes initiatives can come across of like, well, that's just retail, and in a low rate environment, that's not good for many of my projects, let me tell you. But getting the entire company, really, I had many conversations with our CEO, and like just being able to get the context of like, this isn't just a retail or consumer banking initiative. This is about the entire experience for our employees that have those customer facing interactions, and it transcends across all our lines of business. And I think that was something that we had, that took us some time to kind of do that. When I say time, maybe it added a few more months to the process of really just getting all the lines of business unit leaders to buy into it, even if it was like for instance, our director of wealth management and trust, they're not really living in the platform. Their demographic is different, their whole process is different, but him being bought in so that he's like, oh, I see the value in this. This really makes a lot of sense. I'm glad that we're doing something like this, even though it's not benefiting my line of business today, and so he's even asked me a couple of questions, like probably last time he asked me was maybe like in April, of like, how's that going? So where do you see us fitting into it? And again, it's not something that they're living in right now, but that ability to get everyone on board. I think, with any project, right, or new initiative, that can take time. If you look at the industry, I think it's not a unique problem. I think you hear all these buzzwords, and like I said at the beginning, branch transformation strategies really kind of operated in this silo, and then you had everyone. If you weren't talking about digital transformation strategies in 2019, you weren't, God help you, so this has been something that's been a known thing, but like those always get kind of talked about as like these two separate things, and that's not really the case. But when you start really having deep discussions about them, that's where you start saying, well, who's going to help us with this? Who's going to help us marry these two together? And that's, again, Agent IQ being able to be that source for us to marry this and take all our lines of business and have one like common goal is huge, because now like the KPIs for Agent IQ for what we, again, Gabby is our AI engine, and then Chit Chat's the human banker. Now we have some common KPIs, right? And so I think that's something that the more you can, that's not so much executive committee or level buy-in, but just kind of the whole organization buy-in of them understanding, even if you're not in this day one, look at the bigger, broader picture of what this means for all customer facing employees and all of your customers, regardless of line of business.
I think that's really important, and an interesting point you made, and something I remember when we were on our planning call of having solutions that can kind of tie in the other solutions and programs that you're working with.
Yes.
That there are fintech partnerships out there that can help with that. I think that's really important. In, Soren, I'll kick it over to you to see, what kind of advice would you want to give to some banks? It seems like obviously you and Extraco banks have a great relationship and partnership. Any advice you'd give to banks on how to make those partnerships as successful as they can be?
Yeah, I think there's, I can try. Mrs. really wants to have done it, but I can tell you what we think about. So one of the things that has always been important for us at AIQ is we need to partner with the right people. And honestly, that may sound arrogant as an earlier stage company, but for us, if we think about this as a journey, there are tactical needs, there are strategic needs. There's no doubt, and I'm not sure if Misty's going to talk about that, but things like what's next in terms of virtual branches. So what you really are, you're virtualizing the bank. And that means a lot of things that there's a fairly robust roadmap for the next few years as we think through not just a service or a product. I think a thing that can be very important is you need to have some of the hard conversations up front. So for example, Misty mentioned before, what does implementation look like? Let's talk about that in the sales cycle. And don't just tell me it's really easy and we'll turn it on, but tell me what it is. Show me the task. Talk about what it's going to be like. I also think that there is, as a bank, go in and listen to the vendor and say, "This is what. Tell me your opinion. You are expected to show up with an opinion here. You're the one who knows the platform. Let me talk to your clients. Show an opinion. Don't be dogmatic about it, but put a stake in the ground and say, if you're just telling me that, well, we can do anything you want, you're not being helpful." And I think in particular that becomes true when we start talking about the use of AI. We often refer to it as augmented intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. People tend to, when they hear artificial intelligence, to think Erica, and then they start screaming and running away. So when we think about how do you use AI in a very pragmatic way, how do you use it to augment the experience, not replace the experience? So I think that there are a number of, it's hard to enumerate, but for me it's a lot about feel. You feel comfortable with the vendor, and also, do they add value to you? Do they add a skill set that you do not have? Are they willing to sit in? If we're saying we are having a 4-hour executive offsite, will they join if you invite them? And if not, they're not a partner, they're a vendor.
That's so true. And Agent IQ did that for us. And I like what you said, Soren, about it's an augmented experience, because you're right. AI, again, another terminology that we toss around. And I mean, just being able to this is our starting point, and knowing we're just scratching the surface with Agent IQ, but it's going to help us with all of our strategic imperatives from our branch and digital transformation and just revenue growth, right? You've got revenue growth strategies that we don't know where those are. Well, we know where those are, but they can change and evolve, and being able to have a platform that's a vendor partner that's that flexible and agile enough to move with you is really important. That their technology can move with you, change that flow. It's exciting because it's not like we've petered out,
Yeah, that's we actually just got another question too. So Misty, as the head of innovation, how do you prioritize projects that you work on now versus projects that you may need to wait on?
That's an excellent question. And it's ask me tomorrow, I'll probably give you a different answer. I mean, because it is that much of a moving target. We set strategic initiatives at an executive level here, and they typically span, honestly, between 3 to 5 years, strategic initiatives. And then those kind of get winnowed down into annual corporate goals. And I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again, so I apologize. But branch transformation strategies it's one big bucket, and there's lots of things that tie to those strategies and imperatives. Same with digital transformation. And so it has been probably the past well, pre-pandemic, so past 3 years, where we've been talking about how they overlap. That's where you get into like curbside delivery that we launched, like those things to where like, well, where is it starting? Where does it end? Is there a human involved? Does there have to be a human involved? How efficient is, so when you start piecemealing that out, that helps from the priority standpoint. I will say, there's what they call the shiny object syndrome. We're not into that. I think a bank our size really can't be. And that's where like really outlining. I think that's probably why Soren will tell you we were kind of going overboard on our KPIs, because you get into some of these transformation strategies, and you're trying to innovate or iterate, and you're like, oh, this is going to be great, and then it doesn't really meet your expectations. So it made us, I think I was more kind of like, we need to track this and 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 this, versus really kind of saying, well, okay, what are we trying to do? And the pandemic, what they say, don't let a good crisis go to waste. It uncovered for us the need to be a lot more efficient in an omni-channel environment. So that was something that kind of just fell out of lots of conversations, lots of external environment pressure, and that helped with the prioritization of projects. The short answer would be you do need to move with where your customer is. So we have a very robust customer feedback mechanism. And so as you see those trends, you should be moving along with so that you're responding. But one thing that's great about with Agent IQ is when you're doing that from that traditional approach, you really are reacting, honestly. Whether you add a new product or change a process, it is really reacting to customer feedback. And we really were trying to how can we be proactive? Because when we're studying the external environment, that's going to happen. That there's going to be some blending between customers wanting this personalized experience outside the branch, and wanting to have a banker and pick that person. And that's always, and if you would have told us that before us meeting Agent IQ, I probably would have been like, there's no way, because my inbound call volume, the queue's going to route you to whoever's next available. That's just the traditional setup. So I'm sorry that my answer was a little bit ambiguous or all over the place, but it does take some stepping back and making sure that you're not like, oh, we could do this and we could do that, and saying, well, what are our customers telling us? What are our employees hearing and thinking? And then what vendor partner can help us respond to that proactively, not just within that respective moment.
No, I think that's a great framework to follow. So thank you for that. And as we wrap up here, I think a good place to end would just be if either of you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience. Just, kind of a summary of everything we touched on today. I feel like we touched on a lot when looking at our engagement, innovation, working within resources. So Soren, I'll start with you and just share any final thoughts you have.
Yeah, one of the things I think Misty and the team did really well was let's try to take a step back and remember why we're here as community banks. Ultimately, let's try to abstract for just a few hours from our standard KPIs, how many transactions do we see? And let's think about not a person in the abstract, but let's think about ourselves. And I see for myself, I want to work with the same people in my life. I want to work with my GP. I want to work with my mechanic. I want to work with my gardener. And I will go to great length to not have to talk to somebody else. I will wait for them. I'll call them multiple times. And for some reason, we have lost that in translation. We all have the people we trust. They earned our trust. We will go to them. And how did we get away from that in banking? Because we've been so preoccupied about channels and products and services, but ultimately, if I have a Misty I trust, that's ultimately what I want. And that will take care of my financial lives. I think that's, for me, it's there's an opportunity to take a step back and remember, why did we start as a community bank? It's not because we didn't have a choice. Why did the customers come to us? Why did they stay with us? how do we bring that to the forefront again? Because ultimately, I think one size doesn't fit all. That's why community banks are better suited than anything else to drive local economic growth, because they actually embed themselves in the community. So for me, it's about maybe abstracting a little bit and becoming very, very clear on why we're here.
Great. Soren, Misty, any final thoughts to share with the audience?
It's hard to follow up with that because I was thinking, that's exactly what I was thinking. I just think that Agent IQ and the solution and partnership is really helping us to extend our mission out to in a digital world, and that's really important for us, that we still get to build our customers, our communities, and our businesses through operational and creative and innovative excellence. And so that's really important for us. So we're really looking forward to the future.
That's great. That's great. Well, I want to thank you both so much, Soren and Misty, for your time today, for this great conversation. As a reminder, everyone on this call will receive the recorded version of the webinar within 24 hours. It will also be posted on bankdirector.com, and you can access it there. So that is all for today. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thanks you, Lexi. Thanks, Soren.
Thanks so much, Misty. See you later. Bye.